Now to the battle between President Trump and Elon Musk and a new threat issued today.
And Elon Musk has just agreed with a user on social media that President Trump should be impeached.
Elon Musk's criticism of President Trump's tax and spending bill erupted.
In June 2025, the feud between Donald Trump and Elon Musk burst into the spotlight. Trump unveiled sweeping tariffs in his One Big Beautiful Bill. The measure aimed to revive domestic factories, yet it struck Musk's supply chains and threatened Tesla and SpaceX with higher costs. Musk fired back on X. He called the tariffs super stupid and warned they could tip the nation into recession. Trump replied on Truth Social, labeling Musk crazy and threatening to pull all federal contracts. Musk then raised the stakes. He said he might withdraw Dragon flights from NASA programs, a move that could delay critical missions. He also hinted that Trump's name appears in Epstein's files and teased a new political platform built on X. But even as Musk cast himself as a truth teller and disruptor, a recent New York Times investigation raised serious questions about his own behavior. The report revealed Musk's regular use of ketamine and other substances. Some of that use reportedly occurred during high-level meetings tied to national security and spaceflight operations. A separate leak described a heated meeting with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Insiders say Bessent called Musk a fraud after the billionaire failed to find promised savings. Witnesses claim the exchange turned physical. Musk soon appeared at a White House event with a black eye, joking it came from horseplay with his son. The bruise raised fresh doubts in Washington about his stability. Meanwhile, NASA and the Pentagon started talks with Jeff Bezos, urging Blue Origin to speed up replacement launch systems. Tesla stock slid again, and polls showed Trump's approval edging downward. Now the fight looks bigger than business. It feels like a clash between two titans. On one side is Elon Musk. He controls X, a social media empire that shapes the national conversation. He controls SpaceX, a company critical to America's access to space and its strategic defense. And he controls Tesla, one of the world's most valuable electric car makers. On the other side stands President Donald Trump, a president with almost unlimited executive power. A man who can crush federal contracts, revoke subsidies, and impose tariffs with a single stroke of the pen. Will Trump's pressure shatter Musk's empire, or will the billionaire's networks outlast the Oval Office? And what does this standoff mean for America's grip on the final frontier? USA space sovereignty. For nearly a decade, the United States had no spacecraft of its own to carry astronauts into orbit. After the retirement of the space shuttle in 2011, NASA became dependent on Russian Soyuz capsules to reach the International Space Station. This wasn't just a technical gap. It was a blow to national pride and a strategic vulnerability. Every seat aboard a Soyuz costs American taxpayers tens of millions of dollars, leaving critical missions at the mercy of political tensions. That changed in 2020, when SpaceX launched Crew Dragon with 2 astronauts on board. It was the first time a private company, not a government, had sent humans into orbit. More importantly, it restored America's independent access to space. The Dragon spacecraft became the backbone of the country's crew transport program. Since then, Dragon missions have regularly delivered astronauts and cargo to the ISS, supporting both NASA and international partners. Without access to the ISS, the United States would lose more than just seats in orbit. It would lose its presence in one of the few permanent outposts beyond Earth. The ISS is not just a laboratory. It is a symbol of technological leadership, a training ground for future missions, and a gateway for deeper exploration. If American astronauts can't get there, the U.S. risks falling behind in the next phase of space dominance. Space is no longer just about science and exploration. It is a growing arena for defense, surveillance, and geopolitical presence. Losing access doesn't just mean stepping back from research. It means giving ground to other nations that are rapidly expanding their capabilities above Earth. SpaceX didn't just build a new spaceship, it gave the US back something it had lost: control. Crew Dragon is fully American-built, launched from American soil, and operated by a company that, while private, is deeply tied to federal programs. The return of domestic crewed launches significantly reduced the country's reliance on geopolitical rivals. It also marked a turning point in how space infrastructure is managed. But Dragon didn't just bring Americans back into space. It also became the primary ride for many international astronauts. through partnerships with NASA, European astronauts from countries like France, Germany, Italy, and Denmark now fly aboard SpaceX missions. Since 2021, several crew members from the European Space Agency have launched to the ISS using Dragon capsules. What once relied on Russian rockets is now done with American technology, deepening U.S. leadership in orbital access. But Dragon is just one part of a larger shift. Starlink, another SpaceX project, has grown into a global communications network made up of thousands of satellites. While its public mission is to provide internet access to remote areas, its strategic value goes far beyond that. During military conflicts, including in Eastern Europe, Starlink has played a key role in battlefield communications. It allows real-time coordination, drone control, and uninterrupted internet access. Even when local networks are disabled, this dual role, civilian and military, puts Elon Musk at the center of a unique dynamic. On one hand, he provides the U.S. with critical tools. On the other, he controls access to them. That control became a flashpoint when Musk reportedly limited Starlink coverage in specific war zones. Officials began to worry that one man could shape the outcome of global conflicts by simply adjusting coverage settings. Then came a dramatic escalation. In June 2025, Donald Trump threatened to revoke billions in federal subsidies and contracts from Elon Musk's companies. Within hours, Musk responded with a public warning. If funding was cut, he said, Dragon could be grounded. That would leave the U.S. without a functioning system to send astronauts into space. The implication was clear. You can't threaten a system you depend on without real consequences. Although Musk later backed down, the message resonated. The U.S. space program now leans heavily on a single private actor. SpaceX launches satellites for the Pentagon, supplies the ISS, and provides communication services in active war zones. It is no longer just a contractor. It is a cornerstone of American space and defense policy. Which side are you on? Team Musk or Team Anti-Musk? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us why. Our team needs your help. Subscribe to our channel to help more people learn the truth about current events. And now, we move on. From Obama to Trump. Elon Musk's political transformation is one of the most dramatic shifts seen in recent American business history. In the early 2000s, Musk contributed to both parties, including figures like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and George W. Bush. At that stage, his donations were relatively modest, usually under a few $1,000s, and were evenly spread across the political spectrum. Musk often presented himself as an independent thinker, more interested in innovation than ideology. But everything began to change during the 2010s. As Tesla grew and SpaceX became central to NASA's plans, Musk's relationship with the Democratic establishment deepened. The Obama administration openly supported green energy initiatives, and Musk's companies benefited from billions in federal subsidies and contracts. At one point, Tesla alone was receiving hundreds of millions through tax incentives, energy credits, and Department of Energy loans. However, the alignment did not last. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Musk became increasingly vocal against lockdowns and restrictions. He called them authoritarian and expressed frustration with what he saw as bureaucratic overreach. He also clashed with local officials in California and threatened to move Tesla's headquarters out of the state. These conflicts marked the start of his public rift with Democratic leaders. By 2022, Musk stated that he could no longer support Democrats, citing what he called a culture of censorship, identity politics, and government bloat. In the years that followed, he shifted toward supporting Republican candidates, often praising figures like Ron DeSantis and, eventually, Donald Trump. His platform became a home for many voices previously banned from mainstream networks, further reinforcing his realignment with conservative politics. The 2024 election cycle turned Musk from an observer into a power player. He contributed approximately $291.5 million in total political donations, making him the largest individual donor that year. Most of this money went to organizations supporting Donald Trump's campaign, including the America PAC, which Musk personally helped launch. He also funded smaller efforts like RBG PAC, which focused on reshaping abortion messaging within conservative circles. Musk's relationship with Trump, became notably close. He frequently appeared alongside the president at campaign rallies, policy summits, and official press events. Musk was often seen at Mar-a-Lago, participating in off-the-record strategy sessions. He attended Trump's second inauguration, seated prominently among other tech leaders, and was later photographed with cabinet members during closed-door briefings. Their growing public camaraderie, including Musk's online praise of Trump's strategic instincts, reinforced the idea that the two had become more than political allies. At that point, Musk was no longer just a donor or contractor. He was a member of Trump's inner circle. His political involvement went beyond money. Musk was invited to co-lead the Department of Government Efficiency, known informally as DOGE. The agency was designed to streamline federal operations by integrating private sector practices into government management. While it had bold goals, internal reports suggest Musk clashed with other officials and left within months, frustrated by bureaucracy and limited authority. The relationship seemed strong, but by mid-2025, tensions surfaced. Musk publicly criticized Trump's proposed spending plan, warning it would explode the deficit and damage market stability. Trump responded by accusing Musk of acting in his own interest and hinted at canceling federal contracts with Musk's companies. In a rare move, Musk retaliated by suggesting he might pull SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft from NASA missions, a veiled threat that underscored how deeply embedded his companies are in federal infrastructure. Today, Musk's political role is both powerful and unpredictable. He has influence over social media, space technology, transportation, and artificial intelligence. His voice can shift market sentiment, energize political movements, or bring chaos to national debate. His shift from bipartisan investor to hardline critic of the left and reluctant ally of the right illustrates a broader change in how tech leaders approach politics. Has Musk's entry into politics helped shape a healthier public debate, or has it blurred the line between leadership and influence? Tell us what you think in the comments. But before we dive deeper into this explosive story, please take a moment to hit that like button. It's a small action, but it helps YouTube's algorithm promote our videos to a wider audience. DOGE. In early 2025, Elon Musk was appointed to co-lead the Department of Government Efficiency, informally known as DOGE. This agency was created to cut waste, eliminate duplication, and apply private sector strategies across federal departments. For Musk, it was a new kind of mission, reforming government the same way he disrupted space, cars, and communications. One of DOGE's first and most controversial moves was the dismantling of USAID, the government's main foreign aid agency. Musk labeled it bloated and outdated. Within weeks, overseas offices were closed. Thousands of staff were put on administrative leave, and dozens of humanitarian programs were canceled. Some of its core functions were transferred to the State Department, but the disruption was immediate. Critics described it as the fastest rollback of U.S. soft power in modern history. At first, the team behind DOGE looked promising. Musk joined forces with President Trump and prominent Republican figures like Secretary of State Marco Rubio. They promoted DOGE as a bold experiment in innovation-driven governance, but what seemed like unity quickly gave way to internal friction. Within weeks, cracks appeared. Musk's aggressive reforms collided with existing procedures. He demanded mass layoffs, instant audits, and policy resets. In one cabinet meeting, he clashed with Rubio over resistance to restructuring within the State Department. Rubio defended his staff, warning Musk's pace would undermine diplomatic stability. Their argument made headlines and exposed deeper tensions in the administration. DOGE extended its reach to multiple agencies, including the Federal Aviation Administration. Musk pushed for automation in air traffic control and proposed replacing hundreds of human operators with AI-based systems. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy pushed back, calling the plan reckless. Recent near-miss incidents had already raised safety concerns, and the unions representing air traffic controllers threatened legal action. DOGE's actions triggered a wave of lawsuits. More than 200 legal challenges were filed by employees, unions, and advocacy groups. Several federal courts found that DOGE's decisions violated constitutional protections and administrative procedures. Key orders were overturned, and some dismantled agencies were reinstated. The growing list of legal defeats damaged Musk's public image as a reformer and cast doubt on Trump's leadership style, raising concerns about whether his administration could govern within the limits of the law. Despite early claims that Doge would save trillions, its real-world results were modest at best. Internal audits showed fragmented implementation, legal uncertainty, and growing resistance inside the federal workforce. Musk's leadership style, fast and confrontational, often clashed with the slow, deliberate pace of government operations. His disregard for bureaucracy created friction, not momentum. By mid-2025, under pressure from Congress, unions, and federal courts, Musk resigned from Doge. He blamed systemic inertia, but many insiders said he simply lost interest once his proposals began to stall. His departure was swift, and the agency was soon restructured under more traditional leadership. Several of his initiatives were delayed, scaled back, or reversed entirely. Musk's time inside government revealed something deeper. The tools that make private companies efficient do not always work in public institutions. While his presence energized a conversation about reform, it also showed how easily systems can be disrupted by individuals who have money, vision, and access, but no patience for rules. Do you think Doge did more harm than good? Share your opinion in the comments below. The most hated man. Elon Musk is known as a visionary, but in recent years he has also become one of the most polarizing figures on the planet. As his influence expanded across industries and borders, his public behavior became more erratic, confrontational, and unapologetically provocative. While some continue to praise him as a genius and savior, others now see him as reckless, divisive, and dangerously unpredictable. On social media, Musk's posts frequently cross the line between satire and hostility. He has mocked journalists, insulted critics, and shared memes that many view as racist or conspiratorial. In one widely criticized case, he posted an image comparing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to Adolf Hitler. The tweet sparked outrage from Holocaust memorial groups and human rights organizations, forcing Musk to delete the post shortly after. His online behavior is not limited to commentary. Musk has increasingly used his platform to sway political narratives in other countries. In Germany, he amplified content attacking the ruling coalition just days before a regional vote, prompting accusations of foreign interference. In the United Kingdom, his posts about immigration stirred outrage after he claimed that Britain is falling because of open borders. Government officials in both countries criticized his remarks as destabilizing and irresponsible. Musk's interventions are not always limited to tweets. His influence has been felt in political action as well. During the 2024 U.S. election cycle, several whistleblowers claimed that Musk's internal moderation team at X suppressed pro-Democrat messages while boosting right-wing content. Independent studies later confirmed unusual algorithmic behavior during the final weeks of the campaign. Critics warned that Musk had quietly turned his social platform into a political weapon. Meanwhile, his personal image continued to unravel. He appeared at public events visibly agitated, giving interviews where he mumbled, paused for long periods, or offered cryptic answers. A major publication released an investigative piece alleging long-term drug use, citing sources close to Musk and former employees. Though he denied the claims, the story only added fuel to concerns about his judgment and stability. Inside his companies, the situation became even more volatile. Once seen as the crown jewel of clean innovation, Tesla found itself at the center of public outrage. Musk's inflammatory posts began to directly affect the brand. In Germany and France, protesters vandalized Tesla stores. At least 3 Tesla vehicles were set on fire in separate incidents, with police citing political motives. In online forums, former fans urged others to sell their Teslas or cancel pre-orders, calling the brand compromised. The damage wasn't just physical. Tesla stock suffered significant losses in European markets following Musk's open support for far-right groups, including Alternative for Germany. Several German lawmakers called for investigations into Tesla's tax benefits in the country. Municipal governments suspended procurement agreements. In a single quarter, Tesla's market share in key EU states dropped more than 11%, signaling not just investor concern but consumer backlash. Musk's personal brand was now seen as a liability, even by loyal allies. Throughout the chaos, President Trump continued to defend him publicly. In speeches, he called Musk a genius of industry, and even went as far as purchasing a new Tesla Cybertruck on stage during a rally. Behind the scenes, Trump lobbied Congress to preserve certain federal contracts for SpaceX and Tesla, arguing that national innovation depended on Musk's work. But no matter how loudly Trump praised him, the fallout could not be contained. Several Republican donors privately urged the campaign to distance itself from Musk. Focus groups showed that swing voters increasingly associated the party with controversy, instability, and tech arrogance. The tipping point came during a tightly contested judicial election in Wisconsin, widely known as the Cheese State. Democrats flipped a critical state Supreme Court seat, and GOP insiders blamed the loss in part on Musk's overwhelming toxicity. His constant presence in the media, controversial posts, and growing identification with the Republican brand pushed moderates and independents away in key districts. By this point, Musk's influence had reached a paradox. The more he insisted on controlling the public narrative, the more that narrative turned against him. Tesla, once a cultural icon, was now a political target. His platforms were under investigation. His name, once tied to space and sustainability, had become shorthand for chaos. What do you think? Did Elon Musk sabotage his own legacy by chasing power too far? Or is he just the product of a society that turns innovators into idols and then into enemies? Let us know in the comments. Musk versus Trump. The turning point came with Trump's announcement of sweeping new tariffs in early 2025. The policy targeted electric vehicles and aerospace components sourced from key trade partners. For Musk, this was not just a political move. It was a direct threat to Tesla's supply chain and SpaceX's cost structure. Internal projections showed billions in potential losses. What had been a strategic alliance now looked like a financial liability. And Musk, never one to stay silent, made his displeasure known. For a time, Elon Musk seemed like Donald Trump's most valuable ally. But by mid-2025, the tone around him shifted. Once featured in speeches and social media posts, Musk's name quietly disappeared from Trump's campaign rhetoric. Insiders began whispering that Musk might be preparing to exit the political scene and refocus on his companies. But the silence did not mean peace. Behind closed doors, tensions had reached a breaking point. The split became obvious when Musk began openly criticizing members of Trump's own team. In one high-profile clash, he publicly called Peter Navarro a moron, mocking his stance on tariffs and trade. Musk escalated tensions further when he publicly criticized the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a centerpiece of Trump's second-term agenda. The legislation included sharp cuts to non-military government spending, tighter eligibility for SNAP and Medicaid, and rollbacks of green energy tax credits. It also boosted defense funding by $150 billion and dramatically expanded the SALT deduction cap. Although the bill passed, it was controversial, with projections showing it could add trillions to the national debt. Musk's opposition was seen as a direct challenge to Trump's leadership and further deepened the rift between the two. The tension boiled over when Trump publicly floated the idea of revoking federal subsidies for SpaceX, citing ungrateful behavior from corporate partners. That veiled threat triggered a rapid and explosive response. Musk responded with escalation. He suggested that SpaceX might suspend participation in key government programs, including NASA contracts. More significantly, he threatened to withdraw Dragon missions altogether, implying that America's access to the International Space Station should not be taken for granted. In the most controversial moment, Musk posted on X that Trump's name appeared in the confidential Epstein files. He claimed that this was the real reason those documents had not been made public. While he offered no evidence, the post was widely interpreted as a personal attack. The fallout created risks on both sides. For Musk, stepping away from the Trump orbit could trigger real consequences. His companies still rely on favorable contracts, launch clearances, and regulatory goodwill. Picking a fight with a leading presidential candidate could cost him not just influence, but access. For Trump, losing Musk's support could weaken his appeal among tech entrepreneurs, free speech advocates, and contrarian voters who had viewed Musk as a symbol of resistance to establishment control. Now both are losing ground. Tesla stock has begun falling again, and Trump's approval ratings continue to slide. The spectacle of infighting sends a message of instability. suggesting that the president has no clear plan or direction for the country. While Musk may survive another financial dip, for Trump, the political cost is far more dangerous. Declining popularity could invite challenges from within his own party, or even spark talk of impeachment. The split raises a question bigger than politics. What happens when the two most polarizing figures in modern America turn their firepower on each other? Thank you for watching this video. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis of global events. Don't forget to like this video if you found it informative. Click on the video you see on the screen to learn more.